Billions of dollars for our economy, and the destruction of USAID and the massive cuts we've seen to research and science and global health, I believe, are really weakening our soft power abilities through global development, and I think they are leaving Americans vulnerable to the spread of disease that does not know any boundaries. Thousands of people in my district have worked for the state or for programs that receive that funding, and they've devoted their lives to putting America first, but you fired them. You fired them. Not based on merit, not based on skills. Not based on work history, not by looking at if there was anywhere else in the State Department that these career civil servants could be. You just fired them because you had a 15% staff firing target. One of them speaks multiple languages and had an onward assignment to promote U.S. businesses and strengthen our critical mineral supply chain. Another one was sent back after spending her entire life devoted to humanitarian assistance work in Afghanistan, Sudan, the Middle East, and some of the toughest regions in the world, where we desperately translators and people with bilingual experience. Another one served in war zones in the Middle East and was fired a week away from qualifying for her pension after nearly 20 years of service. It is stunning to me to see how these career civil servants have been treated by your administration. And on top of that, the administration's budget request slashes global health spending by almost 2/3, and a recent study estimates that in 10 years, these cuts could cause 14 million preventable deaths. 14 million. I've worked all over the world, lived all over the world, and seen the power that the United States builds by the work that we do in other countries. I want to remind any public that may be watching that we spend less than a fraction of a percent of our budget on foreign assistance. In fact, sometimes I go out, and people say, "You spend too much money." And I say, "Great, you tell me what you think we spend." Usually they say around 20%. I say, "You tell me what you think we should spend." And I will do that. I will do that number. And you're laughing because you know that what people say back to me is spend 10%. If you just spend 10%, I would do that. I'm like, great, I'll take it. Because the work we do through these programs is so important, and the skills and the talent of our public servants are so incredible. The average taxpayer, Mr. Regis, spends 18 cents per day to fund USAID. That's funding that saved over 90 million lives and prevented outbreaks that would have threatened American lives. And so I guess I just want to know, do you understand how your cuts are going to make Americans less safe? So, as I noted earlier, the Secretary has exempted life-saving humanitarian assistance from the Foreign Aid Review. So that kind of aid will continue. But as I also mentioned, we need to have a graduation strategy for countries for whom we're providing this kind of assistance, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. When are they going to have the capacity to be able to administer these programs themselves? We've seen that with our FY26 budget request for PEPFAR. Let me stop you there just for a second to say that life-saving aid alone, first of all, isn't flowing the way that we thought it was going to flow when the Secretary said that. Secondly, you know it's not enough. If you listen to the experts, life-saving is very different than disease prevention. I've worked on disease prevention for a long time. When a disease breaks out, what you need to know is that there is a response immediately. And the work of USAID took disease prevention response times on outbreaks from 2 weeks to 2 days. That 2 weeks is a critical moment for us to be able to stop those diseases from spreading. And we're in a situation now where we can't even analyze samples that come from other countries because they're being put through all kinds of other cuts at the CDC and at other agencies. And so it's simply just not the case that life-saving is enough. I have 19 seconds. So I want to turn to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. How many sites does Gaza GHF operate? Do you know? I do not know. That's under your jurisdiction, your resources. It's 4. How many square miles is Gaza? Do you know? I do not. Guess what? It's over 140 square miles, 6 times the size of Manhattan. Do you know how often those sites are open? I do not. They are barely open, Mr. Regis. This is not the way to get aid to people in Gaza. And if you're going to be here over personnel and operations, I would ask that you know the details of what you are actually overseeing and ask the experts to come in and help you. Because whatever people say about UNRWA, we were delivering aid to the people that needed it. If the Republicans change the maps in Texas, do you think the New York Democrats should do the same in New York? Well, first and foremost, I think people need to understand the gravity of what the state of Texas is trying to do. They are trying to gut the Voting Rights Act that really governs the entire United States of America. And they're trying to do it by aggressively flouting the law. They are seeking to redraw their entire maps independent of the census. And we've been out for several years, are 5 years out from the census. If these maps were incorrectly or unjustly drawn, that challenge would have happened then alongside many of the other challenges that happen in both Republican and Democratic states. So what we're seeing here is an attack on our democracy. And we need to ensure that people speak up, and that if you are in the state of Texas, that we start organizing against this assault on voting rights in the United States. And that being said, as far as New York State goes or any other state goes, if Republicans want to play by these rules, then I think that we shouldn't have one set of rules for one and another of rules for another. I think we need to even the playing board. But ideally, what happens is that Texas preserves their lines as they've been drawn, as they voted on. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Mamdani said he'd stop. I mean, what was the message? And how did that resonate? And how did that go? I mean, I think Assemblyman Mamdani, the mayor, and the Democratic nominees and I think he was very generous in sharing a lot of his insights from the mayoral primary and as a Democratic nominee, really sharing ways that we in the party can message, how we can campaign, and how we can really, level up all of our games in terms of technique, and I think he was received very well. What do you say to the skeptics, though, in the party who want to keep him at arm's distance, some who have some problems with him, and even some fellow New Yorkers in the swing districts outside the city? Get to know him. Get to know him. This is not about having any kind of hard line. I think that if anybody is skeptical, I would say get to know him, and once you get into a room with him, kick the tires yourself and make your own assessment instead of just kind of making assessments from what you may see on television. If you have the ability to meet someone in person, you should meet him before you judge. Are they not giving him a fair chance? Some of those Democrats? Oh, I think I actually align with who we really are as individuals. And so I think that when people get to know him as a person, when people get to know us as real people, what they find kind of surprises them, I think, in a positive way.